Maria. I'm a reporter here with WDW Magazine, here to take you on another magical escape. I am coming to you this evening from the Causeway between the Swan and Dolphin, where the Swan and Dolphin Resort has invited us out to experience the 2024 Food and Wine Classic. Big thank you to the Swan and Dolphin for inviting us out here this evening. This is one of my all-time favorite eating events that takes place on Walt Disney World property all year long, and I am so excited to be here. I'm also very hungry, so come along with me and let's go. The Swan and Dolphin Food and Wine Classic is a specially ticketed event that takes place annually on the Swan and Dolphin Causeway. It is in its 15th year this year, and the atmosphere is so much fun. The Causeway is shut down for the Food and Wine Classic, and it becomes full of food and wine booths. You can go up and get unlimited tasting from all of these booths, and one of my favorite parts is it is set at the foot of the Swan and Dolphin hotels. They've got awesome projections going on them too, which I really like, and live entertainment happening too. I'm here this evening at the Swan and Dolphin Food and Wine Classic, and as you can imagine, there are so many different food offerings, and there are over 170 different beverage options available here tonight, over 25 different food booths, some of them serving multiple items, so there's a lot to get through. So I want to start off by doing the food in some batches so I can give you an idea of what they have on offer and what's available. I started off the evening on the Causeway section that's in front of the Swan, and I stopped at Il Molino, Rosa Mexicano, Shula's, and made it over to the Flavors from Florida section, which has an entire area with a live band playing country music, and everything there has been inspired by the Flavors from Florida. Start off with one of my favorite items that I had at the preview to this event that we were invited to, and that is the ravioli that they were serving at Il Molino. These are fantastic. They are filled with a lemon-infused ricotta cheese, and they have slivers, which is my favorite part, of a pecorino romano on top. So each and every one of the bites that you take of these little almost pasta purses are bursting with lemon flavor, and they've got it cut with the salt from the cheese. It's so delicious. There is an element of some fried greens underneath it, and it gives it a nice texture contrast too. Rosa Mexicano this year is serving their house-made guacamole with house-made salsa, with their house-made chips, all house-made there at Rosa, as well as the cauliflower tacos. I grabbed both of those to try, their chips and their salsa and their guacamole, because they are being made out here on the Causeway, and because they are made with all extremely fresh ingredients. They've got the avocados out there. They were delicious. Freshness, in my opinion, is a huge key to a success or failure of a guacamole or a salsa, and these were both super fresh. The chips were crispy. It's a beautiful night out here on the Causeway, so not a lot of humidity, heat, or cold to deal with in tasting of the foods here. The cauliflower taco was really tasty. It had a thick fry on the outside of it, which really gave it a nice outer shell. I thought it might be dry because a lot of times cauliflower tacos, when you add a tortilla to them, really kind of just is a battle, can be tough to get through sometimes. That wasn't the case at all. They had a delicious pickled slaw, again, really fresh ingredients on that slaw, and that cut the fry flavor a little bit and gave it a really nice crunch to it. I thought that all of those items so far were really great from Rosa and Il Molino. Then I made my way over to Flavors from Florida, and I opted for a dessert already here this evening. They have the pumpkin fry bread, which is, again, made here. Everything is made here from the Swan and Dolphin. So I'm saying house made, but everything that is on offer here this evening is made here from scratch at the Swan and Dolphin. And that is a huge reason why it is so delicious and such a highly coveted ticket every year, because the food items are so well made. But the pumpkin fry bread over from Flavors from Florida was being fried there, right out on the Causeway. So that was as fresh and hot as ever. And then it was dusted with the powdered sugar. It had a cinnamon sauce to it. This was like a traditional fried dough, but with pumpkin flavor in the dough and a cinnamon sauce on the outside. So overall, a great bite to it, a great chew to it, and a really nice dessert bite. They were serving beer over at the Flavors in Florida section too, and I thought that if you were a beer drinker, that would be a really great pairing to have the pumpkin bread with the beer. They're also serving a lot of different cocktails over at the Flavors from Florida section as well. So that is a really nice change. And it's not just wine here on the Causeway. You can get beer if you are a beer person, and they also do have a lot of cocktails and spirits for tasting too. The Wounded Warrior Project has been a featured partner here at the Swan and Dolphin Food and Wine Classic for years, and they also have some extra additional fundraising opportunities that you can take part in here as a guest to help benefit Wounded Warrior Project. Every guest receives a wine glass here upon check-in at the Food and Wine Classic. There are over 170, yes, 170 different wine, beer, and cocktail options available here on the Causeway, but the majority of them are wine. And as you walk down the Causeway, you're going to want to keep this glass with you because this is the glass that you will refill at each and every stop that sounds appealing to you. They have different wineries here with different wines listed, and they will pour you about a 2-ounce pour of every one that you want to try. Pours are completely unlimited here all evening long, and the event this year runs from 5:30 to 9:30. It's the longest classic yet on the book, so you've got plenty of time to enjoy. Here's the Shula's tent, and there are not really lines at many of the booths, but Shula's is the exception here. The line to get up here to Shula's was only about 5 minutes long. They're serving their famous, always returning item, the beef. The beer garden area has expanded its footprint this year. It stretches all the way here to the pool by the Swan. They have so many different beer and seltzer and cider options here. So if you're not someone who enjoys wine, you can definitely grab a pour of a nice crisp beer out here too. Kettle One Vodka has set up a station here where you can try their espresso martinis here in the Carnival Corner, which also is doubling as the beer garden this year. The sun has gone down here at the Classic. I've made my way through the entirety of the event and I got a few more food dishes here to try. The first I want to talk about is the Korean no mayo salad. This is a new dish to this year's Food and Wine Classic and it is a vegetarian option. I love that it is being assembled fresh out here on the Causeway. As you go down the line, you can see that each individual ingredient is being thrown in and being made fresh here on the Causeway. It's just something that makes this classic so outstanding. But this dish was also pretty outstanding. This was a cold noodle dish. And I really thought it was a refreshing option among everything else here. The sauce on it is soy-based, but it is not overwhelming in any way. And they have a lot of fresh, crunchy vegetables in there. A cabbage is in there. You can taste the parsley in there. They have some onions in there. And that really gives a nice texture contrast to those really soft noodles. And the noodles taste like they've almost been marinated in that soy-based garlicky sauce. So every single bite of those is flavor packed to the max, and I'm really enjoying that out here tonight. Garden Grove is serving up candied baby beet. I'm gonna be honest, this is my first time trying a candied beet dish. Usually beets are served as a savory item in my experience, so this was a bit different for me. The beets themselves are still very, very soft, and they've definitely been marinated in something that makes them sweet. It was served with a pistachio butter that really added a creaminess to the beet. The beet was a little bit acidic, and I thought really benefited from that creamy bite. And that's another thing about the Food and Wine Classic. You taste one flavor of something when you bite it, and it evolves into something else. And all of the different elements, like on the desserts that I'm going to talk about here in a second that I tried, all of the different elements really come together, and you really need each and every one of them to make these dishes so flavorful, but that is what makes them so flavorful and so tasty. The bands are constantly rotating here through the night. Now we are being treated to a Motown group. With dessert this time. So there are a lot of different sections to the Food and Wine Classic. There's a Chinatown area, there's the Florida section, there's the main Causeway section, and there is a Carnival Corner section. I wanted to grab some of the food items from the Carnival Corner. I didn't see a lot of these here at the Classic last year, so I wanted to give these all a try. I got the Chipotle mac and cheese, which I want to start with. The cool thing about the Classic here this year, you can have a lot of the items here vegetarian if you ask upon request. So this one had some chopped ham on it, and you could have asked to leave the ham off and just get the mac and cheese. So that's what I did. I asked for a vegetarian here tonight, and it is a Chipotle cheddar cheese sauce that is on these rotini noodles. This was a great pasta choice because the sauce really got into the pasta, and this was a little bit unexpectedly spicy. Not too much. I have a pretty decent tolerance for spice. It was not anything overwhelming at all, but after I swallowed it, that Chipotle kick really kicked in after the creaminess of that cheese, because up front the flavor really was just very cheddar cheese sauce forward, but after I swallowed it, the spice really came through, and that was really tasty and a little bit of a surprise. The cheesy Florida corn cakes, not from the Florida section, from the carnival section, not to be confused. These were like almost like potato pancake texture and appearance, but made with corn and cheese in them. So these were deep fried cakes, and these were a very approachable flavor. I thought it might be overwhelming with corn and cheese and very, very heavy. It's definitely a heavy dish, but it's not an overwhelming flavor of corn or cheese. They are very, very approachable in flavor, and to keep them from being dry, they did add a crema on top of them. So this is a nice bite, and this is another one I would say would go really, really nicely with beer. If you were trying beer here tonight, I think this dish would pair really nicely with the beer. And then from the beer garden, they're offering a food item this year. They have miso butter tossed Brussels sprouts, and you could tell that these Brussels sprouts were tossed and fried in that butter, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. They were very soft, and you could tell that the butter had been thrown on there. I really enjoyed it. The softness that it provided to the Brussels sprout, there wasn't a crisp, there wasn't a crunch. These were cooked through Brussels sprouts. They didn't lose any of their structure though, and they weren't falling apart. And the miso sauce on the outside, great texture contrast, really nice creaminess to the dish. This was a bit of a heavier dish for a Brussels sprout vegetable-based dish, but really tasty, and one that I would actually go back for. The heaviness did not deter me at all. Really tasty dish here at the Brussels sprouts. And we picked up like almost every dessert that they have on offer here this evening here at the Food and Wine Classic. I want to start off with the banana caramel creme brulee just because they were firing that one fresh there at the booth. This is a really decadent dessert. Thick banana caramel creme brulee. Really nailed the texture there of almost a banana pudding in there. And the top of it was nice and crisp and crunchy. So that was a great creme brulee texture on that one. The chocolate berry poof was absolutely loaded with mousse. So here, check it out. Look at how much mousse is loaded up in there. That's the berry portion on the bottom with the chocolate on the outside that is nice and crunchy. So if you are a fan of mousse, this was a chocolate overload dessert and did have a little bit of berry flavor in it too. The carrot cake surprised me. The carrot cake here doesn't at all look like carrot cake. It looks like a vanilla cupcake, to be honest, because it is carrot cake in the center and it's almost been dipped in like a vanilla glaze, like that's on a donut, I want to say, and it has a cream cheese mousse on the top that kind of replicates a cream cheese frosting. The cream cheese frosting paired with that glaze made this a very sweet carrot cake. But then I tried just a portion of the carrot cake itself in the center, and that had the texture of carrot and walnuts and a really not at all sweet flavor, just spiced carrot cake. So that was a really surprise to me considering how sweet the outside was. That is what I meant earlier when I said you've got to try all of these bites of food, from the savory to the sweet options here at the Classic, as they are intended, with every single portion of whatever's served on your plate all together. Because if I were to just have the carrot cake on its own, I probably would have said it wasn't sweet enough. And if I was to just have the mousse on the outside, I would have said that was way too sweet. So you've got to try all of the food and dessert items here as they were intended to be eaten, because they really do balance out wonderfully. I am not a person who usually likes mousse, so for me to say that the coconut mango tapioca mousse was something that I thoroughly enjoyed out here is a shock to me as much as it is probably to everyone else who knows me. I love this. This flavor of the mango was so bright, and the coconut really cut through the acidity of it. And I really liked that it was served with like a little thin piece of dark chocolate on the top of it. It was meant to be a garnish, but biting little bites of that with the mousse gave it a great texture contrast. And again, the flavor was really bright and refreshing, and this was a very light dessert. As was the berries with pistachio, almost cake with a white chocolate foam on it. The pistachios, it doesn't say pistachio cake. The pistachios are almost like coated in like a cakey, crumbly texture, and they're on the bottom of this, so you gotta really dig down into it. But when you get the fresh raspberry with the pistachio, the little bit of that cakiness, and the sweetness from that white chocolate mousse, this whole dessert, again, comes together with all of the different elements. So layered beautifully here. These are really nice, all small little bites of desserts, which I appreciate here after you've eaten and drank so much throughout the night, that really are not overwhelming, and you can take little bites of as you walk through. Desserts, most of them are new this year, and they were really well done. Thank you so much for following along with me here this evening at the 2024 Food and Wine Classic. I had an absolutely fabulous time, and I am stuffed. Another big thank you to Swan and Dolphin for inviting us out to experience the event this year, and a reminder that this and all of our videos are brought to you by WDW Magazine. Link is in the video description to subscribe. Thanks again for following along, everyone. My name is Maria, and I will see you in the next magical escape.
Are you even a true Disney fan if you don't have a WDW Magazine subscription? Don't just fly. Soar over to our website and subscribe to our award-winning Disney magazine.